And now for something a little different. The Sega Saturn is considered a very love it or hate it system. On one side, their 2D games are considered far superior to what the competitor to the PlayStation could do, but on the other hand, it didn't have many games going for it, unless you lived in Japan. If you could believe it, there was never a mainstream Sonic title released for the system. Well, there was Sonic Extreme, but that suffered through development hell and never saw the light of day. There was one game, though, which I'm sure some of you played. Sonic R. The R, I'm guessing, stands for racing. As the title might suggest, it's a racing game. Now, I know what you're thinking. Didn't Sega already try to create a Sonic racing game? And didn't that fail considerably? While the answer to that question is yes, I consider Sonic R to be an overall much better game. Now, I personally don't own a Sega Saturn. It's something I plan on getting one day, but as of now, nothing. Sonic R was later ported to the PC and eventually released as part of the Sonic Gems collection, which is the port I'll be reviewing. The plot of the game is completely non-existent. I think there's some kind of plot statement in the manual, but overall it really doesn't matter, and I think the game is a lot better without it. Unlike Sonic Drift where everybody operates a vehicle, everybody in this game, with the exception of Amy and Dr. Eggman, race completely on foot, which to me is how it's supposed to be. In the beginning you can select only 4 characters, being Sonic, who's the fastest of the bunch, has a double jump but poor handling, then there's Tails, who can fly for a short period of time, allowing him to get the shortcuts easier, Knuckles, who has the best handling of the 4 and the ability to glide, and there's Amy, who, in my opinion, is probably one of the worst racers in the game. She drives a car which is incredibly slow on its own, only sporting a boost button which leaves you unable to turn while performing it, and it takes time to recharge. I mean, yeah, you could win with her if you knew all the shortcuts, but in multiplayer, good luck. Extra characters can be unlocked by collecting the 5 Sonic tokens scattered about each stage. By collecting all 5 and obtaining 1st, 2nd, or 3rd place, you can do a solo race against the extra character and select them after beating them in the race. After beating the game, you can also select Dr. Eggman, though personally, I stick with the other racers. The extras include Metal Sonic, a fan favorite, a Tails doll thing, I don't know, but it's got a creepy atmosphere going about it, an Egg Robo from Sonic & Knuckles, and finally Metal Knuckles. There are only 5 courses in this game, which is definitely a negative. A racing game should have much more than 5 stages to race through. I seriously don't know what the developers were smoking when they decided the 5 stages were enough to handle. With that being said, for some reason all the stages begin with the letter R. There's Resort Island, Radical City, Regal Ruins, Reactor Factory, and Radiant Emerald, which you can only unlock after attaining 1st place in the other stages. The courses themselves aren't exactly big, but the exploration factor in this game is a rather nice touch. Like other racing games, the tracks contain shortcuts if you take the time needed to search for them. Sometimes they're pretty obvious, but others require a bit more thinking to figure out. While racing through the courses, you can collect rings which unlock certain shortcuts and allow you to use the boost ramp when you step on it. The more rings you have, the farther it sends you. Collecting rings also lets you open doors that contain Chaos Emeralds, which you can obtain by collecting it and winning 1st place in the same race. The doors themselves are rather off-track, but if you study the course a bit, they're a cinch to collect. Collecting all Chaos Emeralds unlocks Super Sonic to play with, or as I call him, the Destroyer of Souls. I'm serious. Super Sonic is fucking game-breaking. He has the best speed, the best handle, the best acceleration, and has a double jump to boot. If you're gonna get Super Sonic, prepare to make the rest of the game boring and prepare to lose friends in multiplayer. Which brings up another problem. The game has some serious balance issues. Some characters are clearly better than others, and it's only worse when you unlock the extras. Like I said, Super Sonic himself is incredibly broken, but when you pick one of the extras, you have to race against him, and if you pick the Tails doll, then good luck even trying to come close. If you pick a particularly bad racer, then unless you know every shortcut and race perfectly, you will lose. Control-wise, well, it's kind of a mixed bag. You can accelerate by either holding up or by pressing the acceleration button, whatever the controller has it mapped as. Turning can be a problem, especially in the stages that sport numerous sharp curves. While the character can move pretty fast, they turn like freaking tanks, and it's even worse when you collide with a wall, coming to a grinding halt. Ugh, could you turn any faster, dude? Don't give me that look, turn faster! You can use the L or R triggers to attempt a sharp turn, but most of the time I feel it's very unresponsive and somewhat useless. Another problem is the overall replayability. It only takes about an hour to collect and unlock everything, and once you unlock Super Sonic, there's little to no reason to race anymore. Yeah, you could always not pick him, but if you don't, then you're stuck with racing against the regulars, and not the extras. And if you pick one of the extras, then you have to race against Super Sonic, who will most likely or not beat you. Multiplayer would be the only reason to stick around, but with only 5 courses, even that's a thin possibility. Graphically speaking, it's quite good considering it was for the Sega Saturn. The environments are quite lush, and the weather effects are a nice touch. The music is something you'll either really like or extremely hate. It really doesn't sound like it belongs in a racing game, but in terms of quality, they're pretty good songs, especially the main theme, Supersonic Racing. Overall, I like to consider Sonic R a nice distraction, but nothing more. It's one of those games you play with a friend when there's really nothing else to play, and I mean really nothing else. But with questionable controls, balance issues, and little to no replayability, Sonic R just isn't that game you can have hours and hours of fun with. I'll give it a 6.5 out of... What? Oh shit.
Yes!
What the fuck?